All right, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Jay Ford, and I'm running for county judge.
Excellent. And what led up to, or what was the moment where you said, this is what I want to do?
So I've always had a little bit of kind of desire, if you will, for community service for years and years, but I really had never ever done anything. When I went to work for the Postal Service, as a consultant for the Postmaster General, and I took the oath of office, that kind of did something. And then spending, 18 months working in Washington and kind of seeing how our political system and how our government works, it began to kind of build more and more. And then as the time came, people said, why don't you run for county judge? Why don't you? And at first it's like, I don't know. But then I got to kind of combining all the things together as to like, I think I have skills. I have a lot of business background, a ton of executive level experience, and I think that's what a county needs in a county judge type role. I mean, it's almost like running a business in a sense. You're managing budgets, you're managing people, you're making the tough decisions, you're setting strategy. Sounds like I have those skills. So rather than just retire and sit on my farm, let's go to the community involvement. Let's actually do this. So and the closer I got to it, the more excited I got. And the more excited I got, it's like when you get excitement about something, how do you turn away at that point?
Right. All right. So what do you see as the biggest challenges that you're going to face in this role, and how do you plan to handle them?
So I really see, from what I know today, there's two. One of which is we've got an amazing group of citizens that have a really diverse viewpoint on everything. There are some that are extremely, vocal and adamant about this is what I like, and then there's a complete opposite. And then there's a lot of people in between. In order to be successful, the role is to represent the majority of the citizens and to do what's in their best interest. So with such a diverse group, we've got to come together as a team towards a common goal. Now, are we going to get 100%? No, but we need to get, people going in the same direction. And that's where a lot of the things that come from my background, I pride myself on being an inspirational leader and building teams. Right? The way I view this is all about teamwork, and we put ourselves in a team, and that's where you put the things in place, the environment in place where people excel. And so also in this county judge role, like a CEO or a president of a company, people have to trust you, right? And trust is earned. That's not something that when you end up at the end of the night after the voters have spoken and all that, they don't automatically trust you, right? So you've got to earn that trust. So that's how you do that. You've got to be an inspirational leader. You've got to gain their trust to do that first. So that's how I operate, right? So that's the way I've always done. That's who I am. And that's what I'm going to do here. The other side of it is the financials, the budget. We are not a wealthy community at all. There are a lot of things, and I would love to say, all these things that people come to me, I want this, this, and this, I don't want this, this. I'd love to say, you got it. We got the money to do it, no problem. I'd love to be, rich in that way. We're not. So the second challenge to doing this is once we get people aligned and get them excited to go a certain way, we've got to figure out how to pay for it, right? So I know we've been really active on grants and things, but we need to look at alternative ways to do that. And I know some of the questions that we're going to get to will relate to that, but we've got to look at alternative ways and how do we generate more cash to pay for the things. So those are the two things that I see that we're going to do it, and I've got ideas on the cash side of it as well that we'll get to.
Excellent. And so have you ever been in a county judge position before?
No, I have not. This is the first time people have said, they have used the word politician. And I was like, trust me, I am not a politician. This is the first time that I have ever attempted to do anything of this nature. And this has been from the moment that I went down to the elections office and picked up the packet to today. has been an experience of a lifetime. I've never experienced anything like this, and it's been super rewarding to have done. But yeah, no, I have no experience in the political world outside of, being in Washington and being, I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in some of the Senate meetings and House of Representatives meetings, meet with governors, and meet with a lot of the people. So I saw how it worked at our federal level. And so I have experience watching how it worked. And there's a lot of craziness that goes on, but that's kind of what inspired me to try to help.
All right. And so, given this is your first time, when you step into a situation where you don't already have experience, how do you plan on approaching it to move it forward?
So, for me, everything is a process, and the details of that process are very important. Data is key, data and facts. So the first thing I always do is I start off with research, collect data, and then analyze that data, get expert opinions and things to turn it into information, so that you've done a research and you kind of have a basis for the decision, where we're going to go and how you go about doing things. And then you reach out to experts that you've worked with, people that you've known in the past or have expertise in the area. As I said, from a governmental perspective, by my time, in Washington, I've met people that have experience in this, in the, leading groups, if you will, whether it be city, county, states, and I've met some of these people. It's like, how do you handle these things? How do you do them? So get that expert opinion. And also, when you do that, the one thing that I've learned and we have to be cautious of is you got to be cautious of agendas, people's agendas, that, they can give you guidance, and because they have an ulterior motive, whether it be good or bad, but you need to try to be, vigilant in when you're listening to that. And then finally, once you have all that information, then it just becomes a decision-making process. Those things are going to lead you in a certain path, and you can't get in a position to where it's, paralysis by analysis, as they say. When you're the roughly right and say, okay, this is where we're going to go, and this is what I feel is the best thing, and move forward. And then you track the progress. And if you start seeing something, you should have a risk mitigation strategy. And if things are starting to go sideways, you begin to correct. You can't make a decision and say, I'm done. You got to continue to follow it.
And that leads into a question a little further on about how you balance data, expert guidance, and lived experience when making decisions that will affect the county.
So the first piece is the data, as we said, and that just provides you with, whether statistics or something, it gives you just a baseline. And then, so when you're talking about that, expert opinions, and then lived experiences. So I will use a perfect example here that I've thought about is, in a situation right now, my background is in manufacturing, logistics, warehousing, distribution. That's my background. If something came up in the county that was relating to manufacturing, logistics, or anything like that, I'm going to go with my 40 plus years of experience on that. I might talk to a lot of people, but my gut and my lived experiences is going to be what's key there. On the other side of that, if something comes up, there's been a lot of talk about solar and renewable energies and stuff like that. I would go to Mr. Hilliard on that and say, I would more trust you in this situation than me. He would be much more versed in that. So there's a balance in that. The data tells one thing, but then you need to be able to trust the experts in that area, whether it's yourself in the lived experiences or someone that has the experience. So it's not like a 30-30-30 split. That's how that works for me.
Right on. So there are limits to this position's authority. How do you plan to work within those limits to still create positive outcomes for the county?
So yeah, you're right. The judge position really presides over the commissioner's court. It is a voting member, but there's 5 people that do that. The judge has no independent rights to do anything for that. This goes back, and then there's the judicial side of it, the emergency management, things of that nature that the role does. But this is where it comes back to building team and leadership. So the way that I do that is building that environment, trying to be the inspirational leader that we talk about, and putting things in place where the people of the county, the other commissioners, the people, they are working in a positive way to do it. This really becomes more about influence and trust. That's how you move forward in a judge position, in my opinion. It's not so much about the power. As I said, I don't see that the judge position is the power. Some people have said the CEO or something. You're a guide. Your guide is really what you're doing, is trying to corral or whatever, or guide the county forward in a positive manner. And just the role is putting the things in place that allows that to naturally occur.
How do you decide what issues should be prioritized when time, funding, or resources are limited?
Very carefully. But so once again, the data. You'll hear the common thing. The data in the process. But here's where process really comes in a lot. Through these, anything is a process, and the process steps, the details that go along with that are going to help in this particular situation. But in reality, the judge and the commissioners their duty is to represent the best interest, and that's a key word, the best interest of the county. So we go back and say, look, what's the quorum? What do the majority of the people in the county want? Okay, it's not going to be popular, right? This is the best interest of the county, and it's what the majority of the people want, and it's controversial. At the end of the day, you've got to make the decision. You've got to make that tough decision, and you have to stand behind it based on the process, based on all these things. If things are fact-based, you can stand up with your head high and say, wasn't popular, but it was the right thing for the county. And over time, making those right decisions, when they prove out to be right and they're good, it gets easier. And it gets easier for the county, it gets easier for the commissioner's court, it gets easier for everybody involved. So once again, there's a learning process that goes along with that.
Tell us about a project or situation that didn't go as planned and what you learned, as well as how you recovered from it.
So through my logistics career, there have been, we did many implementations. Implementations of something new. If you don't plan for something to go wrong, you've already probably missed out on it. But there's always something that doesn't plan. So I would say, first of all, through your planning process and trying to identify as many risks as possible and putting mitigations in place, that helps. When you do that, so let's just say you're implementing a project or something, and something happens, something goes wrong, the building isn't ready on time, or whatever the case may be. The first thing that a lot of people do, they make a mistake right off the bat, and that mistake is they first try to assign blame. Jay, it's your fault. And so you've automatically put Jay on the defensive. So Jay's not going to be a real good solution to help you fix it, although he may be the only answer to fix it, right? So first of all, my way of doing things, as hard as it may be for a lot of people, we're going to assign blame at the very end after we fixed it, because how you react to the problem is the key. So first of all, you've got to get the subject matter experts. What happened? No matter about who, what happened? How did it happen? And then what are corrective actions? What can we quickly do? You brainstorm. I mean, there's all kind of business techniques that you put in place to do that. You brainstorm, you review, you collect the data. What is the best path? Move forward, go, right? And it kind of goes back to that whole process thing that I think about. But the part of it is the human element. We talk about teamwork. You'll hear me continue to say that. You got to keep the team engaged. If you turn off half the team or a portion of the team to begin with, it makes that recovery so much more difficult.
Can you share an example of working with someone you strongly disagreed with and how you reached a solution.
So going back to my logistics world, we working with customers. They are your lifeblood, right? They're the people that are paying the bills. You have to keep them satisfied. But and the whole thing about the customer's always right. We all understand that. But there are times that they ask or they want to do something that's no. It's difficult. So you get in a kind of an adversarial situation. We actually had one at one point that we had built out an implementation schedule. We were right on track to do it. The customer comes to us and said, we have to expedite this by 3 months. No. Okay? I mean, the building is not going to be ready. We're not going to have the racking up. The warehouse management system is not going to be in place, blah, blah, blah. And so you start getting conflict. The way I have always handled it and the way that works for me is, first of all, why are we in conflict? Why do you need to expedite this implementation 3 months? Why all of a sudden? There's got to be a reason. Okay? They come back and say, we have an opportunity to get an early exit on one of our buildings, so we can save X number of dollars if we can speed this up. So you really don't need to go live. So you identify what are your differences. Okay? So that's what you want to do. The racking is not going to be in place, and we don't have a warehouse management system. So we have no way of tracking the inventory. Okay? So now we've identified where our issues are. Then we go and look and say, okay, how do we resolve that? So in this particular situation, Mr. Customer, are we going to be responsible to fulfill orders during this period? No, you're not. Okay, so all we have to do is bring material into the building and hold it and keep track of it. Yes. Okay. We can do this in an open floor space. We can, put locations down on the floor. We can use a test version of our system if all we have to do is identify where the product is. And so we can just put it in a test environment, continue to do everything else. You can get out of your building, we'll hold the inventory, and then when the building's ready, we will transfer like we were going to do to begin with. Case solved, we're all friends again.
All right. So with us being a country community and having smaller communities spread out in Rains County, what is going to be your approach to making sure that people without such a loud voice are heard?
Yep. So there's a theme here with some of the questions about how do you do that, and then also how you remain involved with the community.
That was the next.
There's a lot of campaigning going on right now by all the candidates. We are all out there. We're having meet and greets. We're having breakfast and lunches, and we're doing a lot of things like that. So those two things are kind of related, because what happens, the people who are engaged and involved generally come to the meet and greets, right? So you're seeing, and I see a lot of the same people when I go to these things. So I would say there's a couple things that come to my mind that I would like to see us do in regards to all of those areas. So opportunity is one thing. Providing those that are not quite so vocal more opportunity to come to the table and encourage them. We go back to my teamwork thing, the more we engage people, the more we build teams, the more we get people to come out, then that gives them the voice. Because the vast majority are in that group that is not vocal, positive, or negative. They're in the silent majority in the center. So one of the things that I would like to see us do, and I've talked to a lot of the commissioner candidates, is why don't we have like a monthly precinct meeting, right? Precinct 1, 2, 3, 4, each of the commissioners host a meeting in their precinct with their group, and I would go, right? And then we do that. And I know it's time consuming and tedious, but it begins to get people out. People get a voice. You may not be available to go to Commissioner's Court at 10 a.m. the second and fourth Thursday, but can you do a 6 o'clock meet and greet or whatever, somewhere locally, once a month type thing. And then I would do that with the entire county. These meet and greets and these forums that we have, the town halls and stuff, do it quarterly. We're going to have a place set up, and we do it quarterly to where it's almost like a state of the county. You know, here's what we've done. Here's what we've accomplished in the last quarter, this quarter. Here's what we have on our plate going forward. Here's where we stand against our budget. You know, kind of that thing. And now come back. What do you like? What do you see? What are we doing good? What are we doing bad? Where can we help? What's on your mind? That type of thing. So I think that's a couple things. And I mentioned the commissioners court. A lot of people have said, why don't we hold it at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays? And I get the part about the, some of the employees and the issues with overtime and things. I think there's something, we can figure that out, okay? I've heard that we tried it at night. So I don't know the exact right answer, but I would be willing to try different times. You know, where could we get, more involvement? I would like to try to encourage, where I'm going with this is, what are the opportunities that we could do this? And I'm very much a fan of the open door policy. I get emails now. People want to come talk. I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to go to one of your meet and greets. I want to just talk to you personally. Absolutely, right? Let's go have breakfast or lunch somewhere and do that. I think that's a key. The other, I guess the final piece, and I apologize, you will see I get passionate about these things and I can ramble.
Be passionate. This is your time.
So I've met with, the cities. I've gone to some of the city council meetings. I've gone to the EDC meetings. I think we could work better together as a county by uniting those groups. They can still operate independently, but should we have like a county-wide? I know we've got the commissioners court, but members from each of the city councils, members of the EDCs, members from the emergency services district, the current county positions. There should be, I feel like we could put a group together that kind of become a development council for the community, because we're bound by lakes on each side. I don't know that we really take full advantage of that, right? It goes back to kind of the, generating money and cash or something. Is there things that we could do that would put us in position, and also maybe get more people involved in the community? As I say, as I go to these things, I run across, oh, you're on this board, you're on that board. I see you here, I see you there. Okay, more people involved.
I like that. When you make a decision, or a decision that was made that you were involved in, because you're one of 5, right? When it draws in public criticism, how do you feel you will handle that personally and professionally?
You use the key word, professionally. I see far too many times people get emotional, they take it personal. If you've done these things by the process, by the book, there was no personal agenda in the decision. You were one of 5, we followed the process, we collected the data, we analyzed it, we did all these things. And okay, you gotta have tough skin. I get it. I've been through this. Through the corporate world, you don't make it, the executive in a corporation without taking some heat for decisions. So does it bother you? Does it bother me? Yes. Do I hate for people to be upset? Do I hate for them to feel like I let them down? Yes. But if it's the best interest of the county, if it's the best interest of the people, the majority have spoken, you stand up as you're the face of the team, right? I mean, that's your job, to stand there and take that professionally and say, we did it by the book. We did what you asked us to do, the majority asked us to do, and we followed the rules.
Right on. How do you plan to handle situations where a decision could benefit someone you know personally, politically, or financially?
That is extremely tough in a small community, because a community of 13,000 people, I've learned just through this past couple of months of campaigning, how many people are, oh, that's my sister-in-law, that's my cousin, that's everywhere I go, I'm connecting people. So that's extremely difficult. I get it. But once again, your personal side of this cannot come into play. You have to be professional about it. I mean, this is the pure definition of corruption, right? I mean, you cannot make decisions. So the good part is it's a committee of 5 that's voting. And if there's a situation to where you are extremely close, you're too close to be objective and go by the facts or data, you have to abstain. You have to say, I cannot participate in this. I mean, you have to be strong enough to do that. You, as much as you would like for your friends or whatever to succeed in these things, you can't. It's absolutely, and throughout my career, unfortunately, I've been in the position to where I had to let some of my better friends go. I had to lay them off. You know, that's tough. That's tough. You know, they take it hard. It's like, it's the best interest of the company. In this case, the best interest of the county. You've got to stand by that, and you cannot be subject to corruption. You just can't do it.
Excellent. At the end of your term, how should residents measure whether you were successful in this role?
Once again, we go back to the diversity. So people are going to view you and do things from a different perspective of how good of a job that you did. For me, it's going to be how they speak of me. You know, they're like, hey, he was a stand-up guy. Talk about like I'm dead kind of thing. but he was a stand-up guy. I trusted him. I respected him. He always did what was right for me. Didn't always like the decisions, but we as a county are better off now than we were when he went into office. And the opposite side of that is I look at it is if I have to like create a bulletized list to put on my resume of all the things, I failed. I really do. It should be a thing where the people may not be able to describe it, but to say, because you look at, you know, people that have led, you know, whether it be senators, representatives, governors, presidents, or whatever, really can't put their finger on why they felt like he was great. It's just the feeling they get. And that's where it comes for me is if the feeling inside of the citizens are like, he's a good guy. He was one of the better, if not the best judge that we ever had, because they feel that way, not because of a bulletized list of something.
Okay. If you could realistically accomplish only one meaningful improvement during your term, what would it be and why? And this is for the county. So
Yep.
One meaningful improvement for us, what would it be?
Putting us in a position to where we can respectively manage change and growth. We all know that growth is coming. Construction on I-30, you know, since I've lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, when I first moved here, Rockwall was a rural suburb. Okay, now Royce City and almost to Greenville is part of the Metroplex. Once they finish the construction out through Greenville's going to be part of the Metroplex. Change is coming. We've got a solar farm that went in, you know, on 69 up at the north end of the county. Change is coming. We've got massive traffic jams for Rains County standards at 19 and 69 every afternoon. Change is coming. We are not prepared. So if I could go out with just one thing accomplished, we have put in a plan for Rains County, a 3, 5, 7, 10-year plan, because you should be planning as these things as they're coming. There should be a plan, and we should be on track to where we are allowing the change to take place the way we want it to, and we are prepared for it. Our infrastructure handles it, our people handle it, they're happy with the change, there's no more controversy. That would be a huge, huge win for me if I went out with that in place.
Excellent. So these next questions are the community questions. So these were literally submitted on Facebook. So I am going to just read them off to you. The first one is regarding taxes, funding, and county resources, property taxes, and appraisal oversight. What is your stance on reducing or eliminating property taxes for homeowners, and do you believe there should be limits or additional oversight on the Rains County Appraisal District and its board of directors?
So, like everybody, I would love for property taxes to go away. But the fact of the matter is, taxes of some sort is what funds governments, whether it be city, county, state, federal. Taxes is what funds that, okay? So the money to do that is going to have to come from somewhere. Now, are there alternatives to property taxes? Yes. And I try to read between the lines on a lot of things like that. Why is somebody questioning property taxes? Okay. Well, part of it is only landowners are paying property taxes. There are people that enjoy the benefits of county services that aren't landowners. They're not subject to property taxes. So should, and so should there be some form that they pay? They're getting all the services, but they're renting. I mean, not to pick on anything, but should there be some tax for them? They're the benefit of the services, but they're not paying anything to receive them. So there's no free lunch type thing. The other side is sales tax. So, currently we do not have a county sales tax. I know we had it on the ballot and there were some issues or something, but that maybe do we put that in place? Do we vote that in place? And how much? I think we're so far behind on our budget right now. I think we've got to come up with a big windfall before that really happens. So the state is actually, Abbott has a plan that he's put out there that, he's kind of positioning this. Maybe we should eliminate county taxes, county property taxes. But the alternative to that is a state. If the state's going to fund it, the state's got to have money to do it. So are they going to put a state tax in place? Would it be a sales tax, which I've heard some crazy amount, 20% sales tax? Okay, well, it's shared by everybody now. Right, so everybody that does business in Texas is paying for it, so you're spreading it away from the homeowners and landowners, but now you got a crazy tax. I mean, you're going to pay for it somewhere. But one thing that I've come across that I think is a novel thing that I'm watching is we have a fuel surcharge that is in place at the state level. So the fuel that we buy at the gas pumps and things, there's a tax that goes on that. There was a rate set of $7.3 million that is shared by the counties that was set in 1954. That has not been changed since 1954. The state now, according to the information I have, the state now collects $3.8 billion annually on that tax. When that tax was set, it was set at 1/20th of the tax rate in 1954. If we were to go to 1/20th today, that would mean the counties share $190 million. Okay? So if we just go to the state, and that's out there, there's a lot of counties that are pushing for this because they're getting in the same boat. It's like, why don't we up this? You're getting all the benefit, and so that's why the state says, okay, we may have a surplus. Well, you got a surplus because we're not getting our fair share. So maybe that's the way to go about it. So there's avenues that I think we can go with to try to increase that. And then how does it impact the property taxes, right? I fully agree. And we've got a lot of exemptions now, and I'm all for the exemptions, with the ag, and that's part of the advantage of living out here. So how do we try to minimize that, and by doing these other things? Then we go to the appraisal district. So the appraisal district is really not managed by the judge and the commissioner's court. They are actually regulated by the state comptroller's office. Okay, there's a board of directors that is put in place that oversees it. There's a review board. So if I were to go and complain about my appraisal and my evaluation, I can protest it. I go to a review board that is made up of citizens of the county. The board of directors are made up of citizens of the county. And so the state actually does audits against that to make sure that the property values that are put in place in the appraisals are fair compared to the market values. So they actually do these audits, but if you want to, you can go and do this. So there are checks and balances in place, and I think we need to make sure that those are happening. And people should look at, their appraisals. The appraisals are based on what the appraisal district knows. If you have made changes to things on your property that they are not aware of, okay, that you protest it and say, you are charging me tax for this, it no longer exists, right? So, I mean, there's a process to do that, and we need to make sure that that process is in place.
Okay.
Once again, it follows a process. If we're following the process, once again, you know, I don't know that we have the rights or authority to limit that group anymore, right? I mean, that's
my understanding.
That's going to fall on the state,
Yes,
right?
that's my
But we
understanding.
can make sure that we are doing by what the state, I mean, through the board of directors, you know, they should be making sure that we're following the rules that they were given to authorized to do. No, there's nothing wrong with that.
For sure. Non-tax funding for animal services. What steps would you take to pursue grants, fundraising, or other non-tax funding to support an animal control officer or animal shelter services in Rains County?
So, I'm a huge animal fan. We have livestock, we have horses, cattle, we've got dogs. You know, we're huge animal fans, and I fully understand that there's no budget. You know, once again, there's not money in the budget to do that. So, I have actually done some research. I have found 12 charities that do grants for animal shelters. The other side of it is I've done some research to say county funded or county owned, super expensive. The county has certain restrictions, you know, a government, whether it be the city, county, they have certain restrictions as far as the construction and what it would look like, okay? The other side of it is I was in the third party logistics, I was in outsourcing, so the other side is to outsource. So have an independent group, someone, company, do it for us, okay? What are the costs there? And then can we, or how would grants work for them, right? So can we put something in place to where we could fund an independent group to do it? Maybe somebody that already exists, you know, would you put, I'll call it a substationer there, or would you put an officer or something in Rains County to handle this? And what would the cost be? And then could we get a grant to pay for that? Could we go with private donations to do it? We've got an amazing group of businesses here that support the community, right? So it's, you know, could we get somebody to support in that way? Another thing that I thought about is a lot of corporations will make donations through a charitable thing for the naming rights. Okay, we can name it, you know, the corporation XYZ's, you know, pet adoption, animal shelter pet adoption, and they fund it. So I'm exploring all the things, and I would actually say, you know, and invite you. We're having a little bit of a community forum tomorrow night to try to. We've heard a lot of things, a lot of ideas that people say we would like to do this. We have issues with this. And the intent of tomorrow night is to try to say, okay, how do we fix it? What are solutions? And this will be one of the topics. And I've got some people that have experience in doing this that have committed to come to try to say, this was my experience. This is where I ran short, or this is what we would need to do it. So I would encourage, you know, people to come out and do that, and, you know, let's be part of it.
I will be there. It'll be after my interview, but I will be there. Infrastructure and traffic safety. Highway 19, Highway 69 intersection. What actions, if any, would you support to improve traffic flow and safety at the Highway 19 and 69 intersection?
So I know there have been a lot of conversations with the county, with TxDOT. So I'm gonna start a little bit from the beginning here. Some of this stuff I have heard. I was not part of any of those conversations, so I have no direct facts but we've got a state highway, we've got a federal highway, and then if you go over to Quitman Street, we've got the city of Emory. So all of that takes place in the city of Emory, in the county of Rains. So you've got a lot of groups involved. The first thing is they all have to be in sync, okay? I've heard things about red light equipment street syncing with 6919. You know, that helps clear. Okay, that's probably easy, right? Super easy to do something like that. Then I've heard an overpass 69 over 19. Then I've heard even some loop, just direct through traffic completely around. I have a little bit of concern with those two in that we are going to cut off business from opportunity with either one of those. Wherever that overpass goes, it probably cuts off less, but wherever that overpass goes, any business that it overpasses, you lose the shopper. You know, hey mom, dad, let's stop here. The kids in the back seat, you could lose some of that. So, you know, I don't want to do anything that hurts business, so I get it. But that may be the only alternative. And then the loop would just make it worse. It would cut off so much. So we have to keep our business owners' interest in mind. And one thing that I thought about is, while it may not be the long-term plan, when I talk about, 5, 7, 10 years, it may not be the long-term plan, but it could be an alternative for today. It would probably be one of the least expensive and provide us some relief. So let's say coming from the north, as you come into Emory, it opens up. It's 4 lanes. We've got 2 lanes in each direction. Then it narrows back down, then it opens back up, and then it narrows back down. I would say, why don't we take it from that point where it opens up, why don't we leave it 4 lanes all the way down past 515, and then bring it back down there once we get back out into rural area. Have it 4 lanes all the way there. At the intersection of 69 and 19, turn lanes either way. You've got 2 lanes that are going straight, turn lanes left to right, both directions. And then you've got the red light synced on 19 going south, that you can hopefully clear a lot of that. And then coming from the south on 19, coming back in, add turn lanes, widen that to what you can, add turn lanes to where you narrow back down there as well. The problem is we need to relieve the congestion at that intersection, and having more opportunity there to relieve that congestion. I say may not be the long-term plan, but I think short-term it could help us a lot, and it would still be beneficial to us in the long term.
Technology, privacy, and public trust. This is regarding flock license plate recognition cameras, and this is a 2-part question. First part. Recently, flock automatic license plate recognition cameras have been installed in parts of Rains County, including multiple cameras near the FM 47 and Highway 276 intersection. What is your position on the use of these cameras in the county?
So first of all, it's a shame that the need for them has come to the county. This kind of goes back to the change and the growth and things. So I understand the need for them, and I think, if I were in a situation to where something had happened, something that I needed to know, one of my grandkids was kidnapped or something, I would welcome the opportunity to know, where did they go, which direction are they going? Okay, so this one of the things that if you're ever in need of it, you welcome it, but you worry about your privacy. So while I am, I'm kind of heartbroken that we're in the need to where we need them out here, but I can see their value if they're used properly. The data is supposed to be stored and owned by the owner, the customer, and it should be deleted every 30 days. So there are regulations and structures as to how it should be used, and there should not be any profiling off of it. That's where a lot of the privacy comes in, that, okay, I go through here, you're profiling me and my truck, etc. That should not be occurring. So there should be audits to make sure that is happening for sure.
Okay. Some cities have discontinued their use due to concerns about privacy,
Yep.
accountability, and legal risk. Are you willing to review or reevaluate these systems, and what safeguards do you believe should be in place if they are used?
Absolutely. Yeah, through my world in logistics, I led our technology business. So my customers were the largest technology companies in the world. Data privacy was huge. That was, the biggest no-no that could ever occur for them is to let a customer's privacy, be exposed. So absolutely, I have experience in that area, and I absolutely would support that, and it should be in place. It has to be, because that for a person's privacy is a huge deal, right? And I think we all know that through phones, laptops, computers, the TVs, Alexa, all these type things. It's like you're on Facebook all of a sudden and this ad pops up. It's like, how did they know I was looking for boots? All of a sudden these ads for boots popped up when you had Googled it that morning or something. So yeah, privacy is a big deal.
All right. Environmental protection and future development, lithium mining and water protection. With lithium mining potentially coming to Rains County in the future, what is your plan to protect local water systems and ensure residents continue to have access to safe, clean drinking water?
So this question is bigger than just lithium mining and drinking water. In that specific instance, impact to drinking water is non-negotiable. Nothing is happening that does this. The problem today, we have no means in place to fight anything. We just don't. The counties can only do and regulate what the state allows them to do. That's part of my change management and growth management. We got to change that. We have to fight that. We cannot go forward in the future with just being the kid on the playground that gets picked on. If we're the county that gets picked on, that's what's going to exist here. I mean, we're soon becoming the closest county to the Metroplex to do that. So we have to put forth the fight, and yes, it's going to take, arguments with Austin, probably, and I'm willing to do that. You say, I've fought before, I'll fight again. But we've got to put things in place that allows us to at least be aware of these things before they come in. So we can have conversations with all of this stuff. We can, as a community, we can voice, yes or no, we want to do this. And we can regulate how it happens. We need to make sure that there's a benefit to the citizens of the county, that we don't get nothing out of it, and it's a fair deal, if we allow it. Right? If it's going to impact drinking water, or if it's going to impact something, our air, whatever the case may be, if we decide no, okay, we're not going to allow it. So, Sid Miller, I'm sure you've seen some of the posts that I've done. I've been following the Sid Miller, our Commissioner of Agriculture, where he is now kind of termed it is agricultural freedom zones, to where he's pushing to say counties should have the right to designate agricultural zones. These are prime agricultural lands for whatever, whether it be cattle, horses, hay, farms, whether crops of some sort. You should be able to designate those, and they're off limits. On the backside of that, you should be able to designate areas that they're less desirable. Okay, I might be okay. The citizens of the county may be okay if we have a wind farm or lithium mining or something here. It would have no impact to blah, blah, blah type thing. So, he is working, to try to push that forward to where, once again, we have at least a right. The challenge with that is landowner rights, right? I'm a landowner. One of the things that I love about being a landowner is I can do what I want to do. And I'm fine with that until up to the point of where what I want to do impacts the 13,000 people here. right? So if I do something and now I'm impacting the drinking water supply and potentially contaminated, since I live close to Lake Fork, I'm potentially contaminated. You know, the Sabine River Authority is going to be in the middle of this, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a point that I think I'm causing harm to the community, as opposed to, you gotta look at that. It's like, you're going back to the personal side of it and one person benefiting from it. One person benefits and everybody else suffers. It's not fair. That's not in the best interest of the county. That's in the best interest of a small group. And that's where I think we got to put those things in place.
Excellent. And is there anything that you want to address, any Facebook questions that you've seen that maybe you haven't gotten to speak to? Is there anything that you want to kind of speak to on that or answer questions that you've just seen online?
Regarding Facebook questions and things, I think most of those have been included. I mean, you know, the lithium mining, solar farms, the appraisal district, the cameras, a lot of those things have been talked about and addressed, and we talked about them here. I can't think of anything offhand that's really come to play that just a Facebook that's like, oh, I gotta say something, right? But I think that you have heard through this whole process, there's a theme to how I operate. If I use, you know, a couple words to this is inspirational leader. And I don't use that word lightly. I know the word inspirational, that's a high bar. That's a really high bar to set. But in my opinion, there's a huge difference between a leader and a manager, right? A manager is going to come and say, Della, here's what I need you to do today. Here's how I want you to do it. I'm going to get with you every 2 hours and get an update, okay? And then when Della finishes that, I'm going to do the same thing. That is a task-oriented micromanager, not Jay Ford. That is not who I am. My position is, if I do that to you, I'm going to have to do that every day for the remainder of your career. And when you get an opportunity to go to work somewhere else, you're probably going to take it, right? But if I give you an environment to where you can thrive, you can think on your own. Now, right, I need to give you the vision, the objective. Where are we going? What's the strategy? And I need to give you boundaries, right? And I need to make sure you're trained properly. I need to make sure that questions are answered. If you struggle, you can come to me. I knock down roadblocks. That is what a leader is about, and that's how I operate. Teamwork. I have had a lot of accomplishments that have gone on my resume, but every one of them was a team. Not one thing on there did I do individually. It was all about building a team, building a successful team, allowing them the failures possible, right? Allowing them to fail. And I always encourage them, if you're gonna fail, fail fast. Do it early in the process so we can recover from it, right? So allowing them to grow. It's amazing how once you get people over a certain point, I mean, you have an all-star team on your hands. High-performing teams is what they're called. And when you allow them to operate in that environment, that's what happens. And I think we can do that with the community. Processes. Very much a process person. If you don't have a process, then who knows what's going to happen. So I've noticed that we don't have updated processes. Where we do have processes in the county, they're not updated. We're not following them anymore. Oh, so-and-so, you know, she did this for 30 years. She retired. And guess what? Nobody knows how to do it now. We always relied on her. And details matter. That you can put a process in place, and if you do it at a high level, 5 steps when there's really 30, okay, once again, you're going to fail. So that's how I operate. It's tedious. I do that myself for the most part. These are not the things that I put on the individuals. This is not micromanaging them. This is putting the things in place that help them to thrive. So that's who I am.
Excellent. And is there anything else that you would like to share with the people?
I really am passionate about this. I want to do this. I don't need to do this. I have no ulterior motives for doing this other than I feel like I can help move the county forward. I think I can build a team of the county, and I think we can win. I think ultimately, if the good people of Rains County choose to support me and I am put in this position, I think we're in a better place 4 years from now. I promise you, I will give it my 100% to do that because I want to. I want to help.
All right, excellent.
Thank you.